All right, guys, welcome back. It's episode 10 of Mealtime News. I'm your host, Henry. Let's get into it. Will Chat-GPT at some point become self-referential? So Chat-GPT is this predictive text mechanism where, given what your input is, it predicts what the most likely words to follow that input are. And this prediction is based off of a wealth of data that they've scraped from the internet and that they've used to train the algorithm. So here's the important question. What happens when the data that they use to train the algorithm comes from Chat-GPT? People have predicted that Chat-GPT will replace low-level lawyers, journalists, and other professions, many of which produce the information on which Chat-GPT is trained. So in that sense, much of ChatGPT's future output might be influenced by its past output. And as ChatGPT's algorithm gets further down this positive feedback loop rabbit hole, it may only increase the separation between ChatGPT's output and what humans would actually create. It's like playing a game of telephone where the first person that says the message is the human, and then ChatGPT repeats the message back to itself over and over again, and then at some point that message is completely divorced from reality. Why are young people now more anxious than ever? So we'll get into the Democratic and Republicans' argument for it, but at least everyone agrees that social media plays a huge role in this anxiety. So teenagers who use social media excessively, one, don't build the interpersonal skills that are necessary to have those relationships which help reduce anxiety. Two, they use social media instead of doing anxiety-reducing things like going outside or hanging out with friends. Third, they're flooded with misrepresentations of other people's lives and think that everyone else is living a better life than they are. And then four, they try to represent their own life is as good as everyone else's lives, which causes them even more sadness. So to get into where Democrats and Republicans would disagree, Democrats would add that there are other concerns in the modern world which trouble people, like climate change. Republicans, on the other hand, would say a lot of this has to do with lack of purpose, that purpose which used to be offered by religion, but now that religion isn't as big of a part of society, that many people without purpose feel more anxiety. Is it right for school districts to ban certain books from school libraries? So there was this guest essay in the New York Times from this Iowa school teacher discussing the challenge of banning books. She says, and I think this is the most uncontroversial part, that it's a really hard job for teachers to go through all of the books and make sure all of them conform to the new restrictions. So let's hear the arguments for both sides. Democrats say, one, that students have the maturity to read a lot of these things, even those that include adult themes. They also say it leads to the banning of a lot of books that are valuable for students to read, but would then be banned just because they depict one sex act. Republicans, on the other hand, say that they're children and we shouldn't rush to expose children to anything sexual. They also argue that some of these books are in line with a sexual revolution that gets away from the norms of the past, where in the past, sex was almost exclusively relegated to marriage, where now sex is a much more casual thing. And finally, they argue that in some of these cases, these books push a vision of gender and sexuality with which they don't agree. All right, guys, this has been Mealtime News, episode 10. Thanks again for watching. I say it every time. Again, the beard, I don't know if it looks better today, but it's still here. We'll wait another, 6 days, decide then if we want to cut it. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Follow to get more daily news and hear arguments from both sides.